Good evening. Welcome to the ShadowTrader video weekly for Sunday, October 28th, 2012. I'm going to keep this relatively short and sweet in this video since not a heck of a lot has happened this week. I'm going to switch it over to the SPY just for a second so you can see this 4-day balance that has developed. The market is essentially trying to push lower, but it's not doing a very good job of it. And because we're in a 4-day balance area here with a tight range, really anything can happen, and it can be either a hard snap to the upside or a hard snap to the downside. That's something that's really important to remember, especially once the when the balance has been tightening up like this for about 4 days. So underneath should bring in some selling pressure, and also above should bring in some selling pressure, or some buying pressure rather. And the thing to remember on the downside here is that the market has already come down quite a bit from a high point and is now just consolidating. I think that's part of the reason why it's having difficulty going lower, because we're not selling off from a higher point. We're coming, we've already come in a little bit of the SPX where I've drawn the fib numbers in. I want you to pay close attention in the coming week to the 1394 here, which is right in here. That's your 38.2% retracement of the entire move from these lows here all the way to the high. That's at 1394.63, and then the 50% move is at 1369.96. If we see some selling in the coming week, these are the target areas. And my thesis here really is that I think we don't see much beyond this first area of the first fib, and because it's going to tie in with these supports right in here, and also the fact that if we look at some of these other charts, there's definitely support coming in just below us. The Dow has looked out of the channel and then looked back into the channel, and the bottom of the channel is still here, and it hasn't been violated yet. And the Dow hasn't even touched this 200 period moving average yet. All right, NASDAQ Composite sitting right on the 200, also sitting on its trendline support, and NDX same thing. So what I'm really seeing here is a combination of a few things. Of one, a lack of enthusiasm. Two, market wants to go lower, but I think it really can't because it's already gone a ways. And three, this is something to really keep in mind, is that, remember, the shorter term traders here are probably getting themselves overly short, and they're not getting anything for it, and that's a recipe for a rally. So that's why in the coming week we have to pay attention to the top part of the range as well, and sometimes using an hourly is better for that, right? Just mark off the tops and the bottoms. I think that once the market moves above this area with some conviction, you could see some serious short covering. The market will pop from there, and then the same thing obviously to the downside. One thing that I do want to mention, which I think plays more in favor of the bears, is the fact that if we look at our profile here, and the first thing I want to mention when you're looking at this is to disregard this point of control here. I know that it's wrong. I'm having issues with this Investor RT software, and I don't know why it keeps marking this POC up in here when on this day the POC was here. You can clearly see that it's obviously the fattest part of the profile, and it was even the most volume as well, but I think this seems to be reading it wrong. But the profile really shows the 4-day balance. It's very interesting in that on Thursday we had what's known as a look above and fail, and we came right back down into range. And then Friday we made a lower high, so I think that is somewhat bearish. And we have kind of an excess low to the downside, which was not able to take out the overnight low. You don't see it here on the profile because I just use the trading hour session only, but between Thursday and Friday, the overnight low was at 1394.50 right in here. And the reason I mention that is that A, it's a level I want you guys to pay attention to in the coming week, and B, it is generally known that the overnight low is usually not the low of the move, and that's like, I'm trying to kind of make the case in either direction. Do we go up or do we go down? If you want to make the case that we go down next week, remember that the overnight low is usually not the low of the move. So it leads me to believe that the low of the move has not been put in yet, because that low was put in an overnight session, and you can clearly see that on Friday we only went down into here just under the 1400. Okay. Let me give you a couple of trading ideas for the coming week. Things are pretty quiet on that front for now. If I could just minimize this, go back to this chart. One thing that has me intrigued is CMG. And I'm noticing on the daily, after the huge gap down, we have now inched our way right back up here, and there's possibility of a gap fill right up in this area. Now, in the bigger picture, the longer-term support in Chipotle is not until here on the monthly trend line, which takes the stock down to about 210 or 211, whereupon I think it would honestly be a screaming buy, because it would just be a correction of all this extra froth, and then I think the stock could, go back to what it's been doing, which has just been going straight up. But before that happens, there could be a playable move this coming week, moving up into the gap in here. And I'm also interested in a little bit longer term play, which I think will be more palpable for newer traders out there to handle. That's a long on Intel, because of the really nice rounded bottom pattern that is formed here, and Intel's kind of been beaten up for a while. And if you look at the weekly here, right, I can draw a trend line right in here. And we're sitting right at trend support already. So actually Intel came in, supported basically right where it should on the longer term trend line, and since then has made a really compelling rounded bottom pattern. So I think the price action from here is probably a slow grind higher. That's India November Tango Charlie. All right, that's all I have for this week. Keeping it short and sweet. See you guys on next week's video on Sunday. Just as a brief reminder, I'm doing a 1-hour show live video with Brad together. It's called ShadowTrader Uncovered. It's on the Tasty Trade Network. You can view it right on your platform on the under the Trader TV section, or also at www.tastytrade.com. All right. On behalf of myself and the entire ShadowTrader team here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I wish you good trading and good night.